I'm Diali Colmercado, and I'm going to discuss psychological safety today. This presentation is being recorded for Teamwork Dynamics with Dr. Peters for the Organizational Leadership Program at Southeastern University. So, my presentation agenda, we're of course going to talk about what is psychological safety, the importance of psychological safety, some research and theories. We'll also discuss some key factors influencing psychological safety within organizations. And I'll provide some visual models for you to look at. One is one that I think is very easy to understand, and then there's one from a researcher. We're also going to discuss some strategies to foster psychological safety for leaders and teams, and also some exercises that are really for you to work with the team or the organization to build psychological safety within the organization. And because I've always been in high risk professions, I'm going to discuss psychological safety for high risk professions. And I'm also going to play a video with Simon Sinek, who is a very well known author, where he discusses psychological safety. And I'm going to end it with some challenges and barriers that there are to psychological safety within organizations. And I'll provide my references in the conclusion. So, what is it? What is psychological safety? Psychological safety was coined by Amy Edmondson in 1999, where psychological safety, as she coined it, is a shared belief that the team is safe for interpersonal risk taking, right? It fosters an open environment where individuals are not afraid to speak. They share goals, they share opinions, and they share ideas. Team members are also able to share concerns if they have any, and they're not worried about getting reprimanded or getting repercussions within their title or their projects. Psychological safety has its roots from organizational change. Shane and Bennis, 1965, discussing that it was necessary to have psychological safety to feel secure and capable of change within organizations. The importance of psychological safety is that it enhances innovation and creativity among teams. Teams desire to learn more when they know it's actually encouraged and not resisted. So it improves team performance, and the studies show that teams with high psychological safety outperform other teams. It boosts learning and growth. So teams are encouraged to learn from everything that they're doing, whether it's mistake, because you can actually learn from your mistakes instead of being ridiculed. And it also reduces workplace stress and burnout. Again, you're not embarrassed if you make a mistake. You're not afraid of losing your title. You're not afraid of losing your job as a whole or being belittled by your leader in front of all your team members as well. Some of the research and theories that come from psychological safety, we talked about Amy Edmondson and her research, but it's been found that psychologically safe teams are more likely to report mistakes if something's going on or things that were likely to lead to mistakes. And it also led to better learning and improvement from teams and team members. Project Aristotle, which was published in 2015, is where they analyzed Google's high performance teams, and they found that psychologically safe teams had the most team effectiveness throughout their research. And they looked at a lot of research from psychologists and sociologists. They focused on what were group norms or traditions. But for Project Aristotle, they were really looking for something deeper. And what they found is that psychological safety was critical to making a team work. So they were the ones that had the clear goals, they had a culture of dependability, and they also had guidelines that they followed. Golombweski and McConkie, and I apologize if I pronounced that incorrectly, as well as Kramer, talked about having trust within the groups. It's been noted that someone is willing to be vulnerable is also someone that's willing to bring up different ideas and share with their team members, and also admit when they've made mistakes, which can be very difficult for people, but those are the kind of groups that actually succeed. Some of the key factors influencing psychological safety is leadership behavior, right? If you have a supportive leader that they encourage dialogue and they encourage you to come with them, they want you to tell them if something's going wrong or if you need something. That's actually really important in the business environment where you may need something, whether it's related to your job or if it's something personal, like you might need time off for a medical emergency or something. And having a leader that's able to understand that and speak with you like open door policy and not be embarrassed about it at all. And that also leads into the trust and respect. You know, you want to have a culture where respect is encouraged and it fosters a sense of security within the teams. Having an environment that's non punitive is also very beneficial because you're not afraid of making mistakes, knowing that the mistakes may be taken as a learning opportunity, or you can actually say, hey, I made a mistake, but I know how to fix it. And your leader's not looking to belittle you, embarrass you in front of other people. And your team members are also the same way because everybody's human. We all make mistakes. And you also want to have that environment where you're psychologically safe, depending on like inclusion and diversity. Everybody should be embracing the diverse perspectives that everyone has from their background, and everyone ensures that every single person is valued on the teams. I use this image so you can see the difference between psychological danger and psychological safety. Here, it's very simple. You have a fear of admitting that you've made mistakes. Or you have team members that are less likely to share their ideas, again, because you're afraid of being ridiculed or anything like that. But in psychological safety, everyone is openly sharing their ideas and learning from each other, right? So there's not that environment where you are blaming other people, but instead everybody's learning from each other. In this graph, you can see where Timothy Clark is the one that did the 4 stages of psychological safety, right? So he has here, we have respect on the left side and permission on the bottom. But these are the 4 stages of psychological safety. Before the stages begin, you're excluded. You're not in that group or starting that climb up to psychological safety. You start with inclusion safety, where you feel included, you're part of the group, and then the group is all learning from each other, right? So you get that feeling of inclusion that we talked about in diversity. And then contributor safety, that's where everybody's actually sharing their ideas and learning from it, and you feel safe in that environment. Now, stage 4, the challenger safety, right? That's where you're actually challenging the status quo, which is not always okay in some companies or okay with some teams or some leaders. But here it is okay because you know if you challenge it, you may actually get to the next level or a level higher and be one of those high performance teams or very successful. Now, there are some strategies for fostering psychological safety, and some of those strategies are for leaders and some of them are for teams. So we're going to discuss both. Strategies for leaders is to encourage open communication and active listening. You want your team to know that you are okay listening to whatever ideas that they have. They can come to you when they have issues. They can come to you when there's a mistake, and you're actually going to listen to them. You're not going to belittle them and again, either embarrass them or demote them or anything like that. A leader can also acknowledge and reward contributions, which and a good leader will know which team member actually likes to be rewarded in front of everybody, like everybody clap, this person did a great job, or maybe they just want recognition through an email because everybody's different. Leaders can also admit mistakes themselves. I'm the leader. I made a mistake. I apologize to everybody, but we're going to take this mistake and we're going to learn from it because I want you to be a better version of me. Those are the kind of leaders that I personally like. And providing constructive feedback rather than criticizing. A good leader should provide constructive criticism to all their team members so that they know what they can do to progress within the agency or company or group or in their teams and take that criticism and learn from it. Everybody wants to be better. So for teams, they can establish clear norms, right? Everybody wants respectful dialogue within team members. So it's good when you get the team together, everybody decide, hey, this is the way we're going to do something, and this is the way it should be done all the time. This is how we're going to bring about ideas. This is how we're going to discuss things. You can foster an environment of collaboration over competition because nobody wants to be working well. If you're in a team that likes to compete against each other, that's okay. But as long as you guys know that, right, that's something, a clear norm that you've established for each other. But usually collaborating instead of competing against each other builds psychological safety in the teams. Also, holding regular debriefing sessions where they reflect on things that they've done, how can they do it better, and how do we as a team or as a whole within the organization get to the next level. So here's some exercises that you can do for psychological safety within organizations. The first one, personal history. This one can be fun, right? You get in a group or you get in your teams and you talk about where you're from, what is your background, what are your hobbies, and something that you may love or loathe. Actually, in my organization currently, they do loves and loathes weekly. So they want to know something that we loved from the week and something that we loathed from the week. Sometimes I put in their work related stuff and sometimes I put in their personal things. Like if my daughter accomplishes something in her sport for that week, I might put it in there. Or maybe I'm mad because the air conditioner is way too low and I'm freezing in my office. I'll put that down as a loathe. But that's a great one to put down or to do with your teams as well. There's also two truths and a lie, which can be a really fun exercise. You get the groups together, and one person will get up and say two things that are true and one thing that's a lie. And the team members have to decide which one is the lie, right? So I'll use myself as an example. I trained an NBA player's mom in the gym for half a year at one point in my life. I won lotto one time. It was not a lot of money. It was only $1,000. And of course, after taxes, it was crap. And I got to meet Tiger Woods and speak to him for about 20 minutes while he was waiting for his banner to be placed up near his house. So you have to decide which one is the lie. Did you guess? My lie is that I did not win lotto. I never have. I'm never lucky with that stuff, but I wish I could because I'd love $1 million. Another game that you can do to build psychological safety is the trust fall. And everybody's heard of this one. You turn your back to someone, you close your eyes, and you fall, right? And your team member is supposed to catch you. Honestly, I don't like that one if I'm with a team that I just met. I have a real hard time trusting people, so that would not be a fun game for me. However, if I had to do it, I would. But that's also a good way for people to build trust. I wanted to discuss psychological safety in high risk professions because I've been in high risk professions for most of my life. So, being in the military, being in law enforcement, and now I work for a Fortune 500 company. So, it's not really high risk, but if something were to go wrong, can become high risk. But let's talk about healthcare workers where psychological safety can actually reduce medical errors, right? You promote transparency and talk about things that are needed, things that need to be changed, and everybody feels safe talking about it so that healthcare industry, whether it be a nursing home, a medical office, or an emergency hospital, can be at the highest level of proficiency. For aviation, if you think about what's been going on recently with a lot of the aviation incidents, you have to think about being in a psychologically safe environment, right? So we want to know that the pilots, the flight attendants, the mechanics, and even air traffic controllers all feel safe talking about things with their leaders and with their teammates. There has been in the past crew resource management that integrates psychological safety into their team communication. And also in the emergency services and safety management fields, right? So you're thinking of construction, law enforcement, corrections, the hospitals and ER doctors, anything like that. So there you want to know, oh, firefighting. How can I forget firefighting, right? So even in firefighting and law enforcement, you want to encourage proactive reporting of hazards in all of those type of environments, right? Because that would reduce injuries and hopefully prevent death. I'm going to show you this video with Simon Sinek, who's a well-known author and speaker, and here he discusses psychological safety.
I think the word vulnerability scares a lot of people, especially in business. Nobody wants to be vulnerable. Nobody wants to share their weaknesses. Why would I do that? It'll hurt my promotability. I don't want to be humiliated, you know? So I think first and foremost, we have to define what it means. This is why I like terms like psychological safety or circle of safety, that we have to build circles of safety. And I don't need to use the word vulnerable because then I end up having a semantic debate with someone. So when we talk about being in a circle of safety, or feeling psychological safety, or being vulnerable, what that means is, and I think we have to be declarative about what it means, by the way of example. What it means is that I can raise my hand and say, I made a mistake, or I don't understand, or I don't think I have enough training to do the job you're asking me to do, or I need help, without any fear of humiliation or retribution. In fact, I can say these things with absolute confidence that someone will rush in to support me, whether it's my colleagues or my leader. And we've all been on a team where we have that. Unfortunately, we've also all been on a team where you'll never admit a mistake. You'll never admit any gap in intelligence or something you don't know. You'll never admit you don't have enough training. You'll never ask for help because it will get you humiliated or affect your promotability. And so if we can talk about the fact that we've all built like that and we'd rather work in situations like this, then we have to reward that behavior. When you express that you don't know something or ask for help, that's a good thing. Also, I think people make a big mistake where expressing vulnerability is not the same as being vulnerable. Expressing weakness is not the same as being weak. So, for example, if you sat in a meeting and you went, I don't understand this. I need somebody to explain this to me. I don't know this. Right? There's no way you're inspiring confidence in your company. But if you simply own it, like, hey, I don't understand a single word of this deck. If somebody can please just explain it to me because I'm the complete idiot and I don't understand any of this tech stuff, that would be really helpful. And if you just say it with confidence, if you own it, it's the confidence that's inspiring, not the expression of the weakness. So I think if you're confident in your weakness and you serve as that example, it allows others to do the same, also rewarding the behavior. In other words, when somebody asks for help, recognize, point it out, and say, yes, more of that, please. Because I think the incentive structures and reward structures affect people's behavior as well.
So there are some challenges and barriers to psychological safety or creating that psychological safety within an organization. And sometimes that can be just the structure within the organization. So if let's say you're in the military or in law enforcement, maybe there are times when you cannot just speak your mind or provide opinions. And it could be because of the situation at the moment. Let's say you're in war and you're fighting and you're trying to save people's lives. It's not a time to sit down and collaborate, right? We're talking about saving your life. And it just could be the structure if you're in a corporate company where the leader does not encourage dialogue, right? So that is a barrier. And there's also the fear of retribution or job insecurity. You don't want to feel like you're going to lose your job. That is not the best feeling. And we can say, like, right now, in the current state of affairs, there's probably a lot of people in the federal workforce who are feeling that type of job insecurity right now. And there's also the resistance just from either leadership or team members to cultural change, right? We don't want to change. Everything's working out just fine. This is the status quo. And if you have that, then you may not be able to build psychological safety. So, in conclusion, psychological safety is essential for organizations. We know that. We all want to feel safe in the workplace and with people we work with, right? Psychological safety is the engine of performance. Okay. It's not the fuel, it's the engine of performance and how individuals enhance team processes, right? Leaders play a crucial role in psychological safety. Leaders have to let people know that they're safe, either sharing ideas, making mistakes, or collaborating with other team members. And implementing strategies to enhance psychological safety leads to success. So, in most organizations, whether it be a paramilitary or a very laid back type of company like Google, or maybe somewhere in between, to succeed, you want to be able to know that you're safe, psychologically safe at work. So you're not stressed, worried about losing your job, worried about making mistakes. These are my references from the research that I did to make this presentation. And I really appreciate everybody's time. Thank you so much. If you have any questions, just reach out to me. Thank you.